Republicans are Nazis. You cannot separate yourselves from the bad white people.
Growing up, I never thought much about race. It never really seemed to matter that much, at least not to me.
Am I racist?
I would really appreciate it if you left.
I'm trying to learn. I'm on this journey.
If I'm going to sort this out, I need to go deeper undercover.
They gon' say I'm racist.
Joining us now is Matt, certified DEI expert.
Here's my certification.
What you're doing is you're stretching out of your whiteness. This is more for you and less for you. Is America inherently racist?
The word inherent is challenging there.
I want to rename the George Washington Monument to the George Floyd Monument.
America is racist to its bones.
So inherently.
Yeah.
This country is a piece of
White.
folks,
White.
trash, white supremacy,
White woman. White boy.
Is there a black person around? There's a black person right here. Does he not
They gon'
exist?
say I'm racist.
Hi, Robin.
Hi, what's your name?
I'm Matt.
Just had to ask who you are because you have to be careful.
Never be too careful.
They gon' say you racist.
Buy your tickets now. In theaters September 13th. Rated PG-13.
It's been 26 days since Kamala Harris became the presumptive Democrat nominee for president, and she still has not given an on-camera interview with even a liberal journalist. But she did recently film a conversation with her running mate, Tim Walz. And they tackled the big issues, like whether or not Tim Walz seasons his food.
Like I have white guy tacos and
What is
like
that?
black,
Like mayonnaise and tuna? What are you doing?
pretty much ground beef and cheese.
That's
and,
okay. Do you put any flavor in it?
No.
Oh.
Here's the deal. No, they said to be careful and let her know this, that black pepper is the top of the spice level in Minnesota, you know.
I'm the first vice president, I believe, who has ever grown chili peppers.
I'm trying to expand
We'll figure
my food knowledge.
You know what? We've got some cantaloupes. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
Tim, you bland honky. You probably eat a tub of mayo for every meal. That's right, Kamala. For special occasions, I spread it on a piece of Melba toast. This would be the equivalent of Biden filming a bit in 2020, asking Kamala how often she scarfed down watermelon and fried chicken. Or really, if we were to be precise in Kamala's case, it would be chutney and conch fritters or something like that. If we really wanted to make the race routine as accurate as possible. In any case, the whole thing, this whole conversation, is obviously contrived and ridiculous. But that became especially clear after internet sleuths dug up an actual Tim Walz taco recipe just a couple years ago. The fact that this exists, that they do this bit, and there really should be no way to fact check how Tim Walz makes his tacos, but we can because 2 years ago, he posted his personal taco recipe. I guess it won some award in a newspaper. And this is what he wrote. He said, "I don't know, people. I make a pretty mean hot dish. Check out my award-winning recipe for turkey taco tot hot dish here." And then you click on the link and you discover that Tim Walz's taco dish includes paprika, onion powder, garlic powder, and chili powder. That is 4 separate spices. Now, this is all extremely stupid, but it is significant. Not only is Kamala lying about her entire political career and Walz lying about his military service, these people are so reflexively dishonest, they even need to lie about how they cook their tacos. I'm Michael Knowles. This is The Michael Knowles Show. Welcome back to the show. A man has himself because he was bored and tried a face swap app. So we will get to that important news story in a moment. First, though, summer's a beautiful thing, and it doesn't last forever. You know what else doesn't last forever? My seasonal candle, Sicilian Summer. That's right, baby. You go to thecandleclub.com/Michael. This is your last chance to have a juicy, little, zesty, citrusy Sicilian summer filled with all that lovely summer fun that you can normally only get on shores like San Vito Lo Capo. I don't even know where that is. I don't know who writes this copy. I assume it's someplace down there in the Mezzogiorno. You can get yours at thecandleclub.com right now. It's going away August 31st. Stock up now. And then you can get your PSL candle on September 1st. What else did Kamala Harris and Tim Walz talk about during their extremely serious and urgent conversation?
I
was
called
hoping
you,
maybe
Tim.
we wouldn't have to.
I called you, Tim.
Yes.
You didn't answer, Tim.
I know.
What happened?
The most important call of my life. It popped up, and we didn't recognize the caller ID, and it went to voicemail.
Hi, this is Tim. I'm not able to answer.
There you go.
Responsible. Thank you.
Hey, Tim, it's Kamala. I really want to talk to you.
It is an amazing privilege. I'm excited. I just want to be part of the excitement that you're generating.
Well, we're doing it together, buddy.
It's fun.
We're doing it together.
Okay, so my takeaway now from the first time we've heard even more than a few words from Kamala, on camera since she got the presumptive nomination, is how Tim Walz likes his tacos. She disapproves of the apparent lack of spice, and she called him and he didn't pick up. Ha 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 ha. That's it. It doesn't get any deeper than that. So people are pulling their hair out on the right. They're saying, why is this all we're getting? Why won't she talk to the media? Why won't she do a serious interview? Why won't she hold a press conference? Why would she? That's the question. I'm not offended at all because apparently the strategy is working, or at least it's not hurting her. This is the same reason that Joe Biden didn't want to do a debate, and then eventually he did. He didn't want to do a debate when it looked like he could win the race without doing a debate. Then his numbers kept getting worse, so he said he would debate Donald Trump. And that ended up booting him out of the race, but he had to do it because he was losing. Why did President Trump not debate in the Republican primary? Because he didn't need to debate. He said, look, if I start losing, I guess I'll debate. But right now, why would I take the risk? Same thing for Kamala. Kamala's numbers are moving in the right direction for her. Wrong direction for the country, right direction for her. So why risk it? If she were a Republican, she would have to because the media would be pounding her. But here the media are totally propping her up. She can flip the bird to the media, and Time Magazine is still going to give her a glowing cover. This is her moment, reintroducing Kamala, eyes toward the future. So, of course, she's not going to do it until she has to do it because her numbers go down or because the media start really hitting her. And the latter is certainly not going to happen, and we'll see if the former happens too. The only way that her numbers are going to start going down is if the Trump campaign really starts pounding Kamala Harris, and you're starting to see that. President Trump, laser focused on Kamala's awful record, landed, I think, a pretty solid blow yesterday.
She co-sponsored legislation to abolish very popular private health insurance, which 150 Americans rely on, dumping everyone onto inferior socialist government-run healthcare systems with rationing and deadly wait times while massively raising your taxes. She wants to take away your private health care. There are many people in this country who spend a lot of money on private health care. It's the best health care in the world, by the way. But they want to do it. They worked hard to make money, and they want to do it. Under her, you're not going to have private health care plans anymore. And you can be a wealthy person or a middle-income person, and you want to spend on a really good plan, better than a government plan could be, far better. And you're not going to be allowed. You're all going to be thrown into a communist system. It's a communist system. You're going to be thrown into a system where everybody gets health care. You wait for your doctor like 10 months, 12 months, 11 months. You got to see some of these plans, how they work in other countries. It's disgraceful.
Okay, so he's using some provocative language. This is a communist type plan. Now, worth pointing out, Kamala was raised in a communist household. Her father was a Marxist economist. Kamala's plans, such as they are the most left-wing plans we've seen at the national level in our lifetimes. As senator, she was to the left of Bernie Sanders. Bernie is an avowed socialist who honeymooned in the Soviet Union. So a lot of times, anytime any Democrat talks about even slightly raising taxes, reflexively the Republicans say, that person's a communist. In the case of Kamala Harris, it's actually a fairly justified assumption given her background and given her entire political record. And he's hammering her on her record on issues that matter. Abolishing private health care, that's pretty radical. That's the kind of thing that could really turn off especially senior citizens, especially the middle class, really. I mean, that's what we're focusing on here. President Trump is trying to win back the middle class. He's talking about inflation. He's talking about her terrible record, but specifically as it pertains to upsetting that middle class of Americans. I think this could work. I think that the attacks, it's funny to point out that Kamala seems to lie about her race or not exactly lie about her race, but just cynically choose racial identities based on whichever election she's trying to win. And it's I think illustrative to point out that Tim Walz lied about his military service because it shows that he's just so dishonest. But the issues that are really going to push people over are, hey, she's going to try to take away your health insurance. Hey, she's going to give a mass amnesty that's going to fundamentally change your political order. Hey, these people, if we try to in any way build up a border wall, they're going to build a ladder factory. If the wall's 20 feet high, they're going to get ladders that are 30 feet high. That's Tim Walz's words. Those are issues that people are going to care about. And Trump is beginning to really focus in on that. Now, when you want to focus on American liberty, you ought to check out First Liberty Institute. Go to supremecoup.com/Knowles. When President Biden dropped his bid for re-election, he told us that one of his top priorities during his last few months in office would be to reform the Supreme Court. Now he's introduced us to his grand plan, a plan that will end life tenure for justices and impose a binding code of ethics on the Supreme Court. President Biden's court reform scheme is nothing more than a desperate attack to end the legitimacy of the Supreme Court. That is why First Liberty, America's leading constitutional experts in protecting religious liberty, is asking you to join them and over 500,000 like-minded patriots in the fight against this brazen power grab. Join us in the fight to save the Supreme Court by adding your name in support of the Statement of Judicial Independence, saying no to the Biden plan, no to court reform, and no to the Supreme Court coup. Go to supremecoup.com, COUP/Knowles to add your name and join the coalition to reject the Supreme Court coup. That's supremecoup.com/Knowles. Now, speaking of President Trump, I shouldn't laugh because this is so scary and sad for America, but it's a pretty funny headline. Secret Service investigating report that an agent left her post at a Trump rally to breastfeed. The Secret Service is, this is from Newsweek, the Secret Service is investigating a report that says an agent left her post at a Trump event to breastfeed. In a statement shared with Newsweek on Thursday, Secret Service's Chief of Communications, Anthony Guglielmi, said all employees of the U.S. Secret Service are held to the highest standards. While there was no impact to the North Carolina event, the specifics of this incident are being examined. Given this is a personnel matter, we're not in a position to comment further. They're all held to the highest standards. Okay, so the way you know what a standard is by knowing what a thing is for, right? The standards for a swimmer are different from the standards for a baseball player, because the swimmer has to, move his arms and legs in a certain way to get from one end of the pool to the other fastest. And a baseball player needs to move his arms in a way to hit the baseball a really long way out of the reach of the fielders, maybe even out of the ballpark, and has to run these. There are different skills involved. So what are the highest standards for a Secret Service agent protecting a former president and current presidential candidate who was nearly assassinated a few weeks ago? I think one of those standards is not having to breastfeed. Has this country lost its mind? But you can't say that. You're really not supposed to say that. Why is this tolerated? Why are we all laughing, but the Secret Service is keeping a straight face? Because we know that people who breastfeed should not be the brawn in charge of protecting the president. And why is that? Because women are not physically as strong as men. Women are physically not as good at combat as men. Physically, women they couldn't even get up to Trump's shoulders half the time. Because women are the gentler sex, they're more nurturing, and sometimes they have to breastfeed their children. I think breastfeeding your child is great. It's not something I'm ever going to do, not something I could do even if I wanted to, and I don't want to. But it's something that women are inclined to do, and they can do because of the fact of their biology and their nature. And that's a really good thing. But you're not supposed to be breastfeeding a baby when bullets could be flying around at a Trump rally. This is one of the arguments against women in combat, is not just the physical differences between men and women, but that it's just not appropriate. It's not good generally because, God forbid if daddy dies in combat, it's a horrible thing for a family, really horrible. However, daddy is not the one providing that immediate nurturing care to little helpless babies, so it's tragic, it's awful, it sticks with you your whole life, but the family moves on. In the case of, God forbid, this woman who's breastfeeding her kid, God forbid something happened to her. The baby doesn't eat. They'll figure something out. You get formula or something, but it's just different. And men and women have different roles. So to my question, why is this tolerated? Why is it tolerated for a Secret Service agent to go breastfeeding while she's supposed to be working, leave her post at a Trump rally? It's tolerated because we've said that women can do everything that men can do. And men can do everything that women can do. And we have to pretend, not just as a matter of changing crazy social norms, but also as a matter of law, we have to pretend that men and women are exactly the same. So if a man can be a Secret Service agent, then a woman has to be able to do exactly the same thing in this. I'm not even saying a woman can't work for the Secret Service, but to suggest that a woman would have the same position in the Secret Service as a man, completely insane. But this gets back to the point I was talking about a couple weeks ago with the women boxers. Right now, even the right, even the conservatives are saying, well, look, we need to make sure that these men don't have an unfair advantage over women. That's why we got to make sure that only women are punching each other in the face and cracking each other's skulls in the ring. No, well, how about we take it a little further and say men and women have different roles, and some roles are really not suitable for men, like breastfeeding, for instance. And some roles are really not suitable for women, like taking a bullet for the president. Maybe men and women really are different. Maybe not only our culture has to reflect that, but maybe our law ought to reflect that too. Very, very difficult though, because to do that, you would have to unwind the extremely radically liberal premise that is now part of our law, part of our civil rights law, which says that men and women are, for all intents and purposes, exactly the same. You'd have to get rid of that premise. And I think the left obviously doesn't want to. And I think there are many people on the right who don't want to either. So, okay, but I'm just warning you, you're going to get more Secret Service agents leaving their posts to go breastfeed. And you're going to know that that's weird and wrong, and that like everything's wrong about that, that that's not where breastfeeding is supposed to take place. And that's not where people who breastfeed are supposed to be and what they're supposed to be doing. But you're not going to have the political right or the philosophical basis to explain why that is the case. Now, speaking of women in unusual roles, there's a gal, I've refrained from talking about this phenomenon on the show out of politeness and standards and propriety, but there's this gal who went famous for making a bawdy joke in downtown Nashville on camera that went viral. And the phrase she used was "hawk to it." Don't look it up. We don't really need to talk about that. The reason I mention it is because this gal is everywhere now. I actually ran into her at a karate combat fight. I was just walking through this fight when I was the corner man for Smile and Sam Alvey. And the first people I see, I said, "Oh, I think that's the girl from that video." And I talked to her. I did. I saw her right there very briefly, but I did meet her. And then I've seen her on all these podcasts. She's going everywhere. She's getting millions of followers on the internet. And then the other day I look and she throws out the first pitch at the Mets game. And there are a lot of people they're saying, why is this girl famous? Why is she now it's an indisputable fact she has gotten very famous. But they're saying, why is she famous? Why are we talking about her? Why? Stop talking about this girl. I think, look, the fact that she's gotten so famous means she's at least notable. It's worth considering how is it that in this culture she got so famous. And I actually think it reflects somewhat well on the culture that she got super famous. And this is why. She got super famous. It doesn't reflect well on the culture why she got famous, but it reflects pretty well on the culture how she has been able to maintain this 15 minutes of fame. She got super famous for telling a bawdy joke downtown late at night on video. But every subsequent appearance she's made on every little podcast, at the Mets opening pitch and everything, actually seems to suggest that she's relatively wholesome compared to what you would have expected given that video. Then it even got me thinking about the video that went viral. I think the reason the video went viral is because of the incongruity in the video. The joke she told is obscene and raunchy and bawdy and all the rest, but her demeanor is not. I was trying to think, if this girl were really and seductive, and if she had an account or something, or if she were a star, would the video have gone viral? No, it wouldn't have. There is no shortage of people selling on the internet, and the vast majority of them do not go viral. Statistically, all of them, right? Isn't the median income is like $100 a month or something? So I don't think that's why. I think she went viral because she doesn't come off as seductive or appealing to She comes off as telling a dirty joke, but in basically just a goofy way. And then afterward, all these people are trying to demand that she do something. And she said, no, I'm not doing any of that. And she's basically, covered up. She's not wearing sultry clothing or anything. And she's just telling goofy jokes on podcasts and throwing out the ball at the Mets game and doing a goofy little chest bump with her friend who played catcher. And I actually think that's why. It's the incongruity of it. We're so desensitized to obscenity in our culture that, you see the video, which has a joke that is in itself obscene, but then all of the context surrounding it is not. And so the thing that makes it interesting is not the obscenity, it's everything else. It's the fact that it's all kind of goofy. And it's bizarre. It is so bizarre that this gal who just told a dirty joke late at night on some, man on the street video is now throwing out the first pitch at a Major League Baseball game. That's kind of funny. And it can be somewhat delightful only because she isn't selling sex. The one thing that you would expect her to do, she subverts that expectation and really doesn't touch it at all. Now, since we're talking about, the birds and the bees and everything, what that act is ordered toward is making a baby. And that's why you got to check out Preborn. Go to preborn.com/Knowles. When a woman experiences an unplanned pregnancy, she often feels alone and afraid. Too often, her first response is to seek out an abortion because that's what left-leaning institutions have conditioned her to do. But because of the generosity of listeners like you, that search may lead her to a Preborn Network clinic where she will choose life. Preborn offers God's love and compassion to hurting women and provides a free ultrasound to introduce them to the life growing inside them. This is how Preborn saves 200,000 babies every single day. Thanks to the Daily Wire's partnership with Preborn, we are able to make our powerful documentary, Choosing Life, available to all on Daily Wire Plus. This film serves as a crucial counterpoint to the left's narrative on abortion and is available to you now free of charge at dailywire.com. Join me in thanking Preborn for bringing this important work out from behind our paywall, and consider making a donation today to support their life-saving work. You can sponsor one ultrasound for just $28. If you have the means, you can sponsor Preborn's whole network for a day for $5,000. Go to preborn.com/Knowles to donate today. That's preborn.com/Knowles or dial pound 250. Say the keyword baby. That is pound 250, keyword baby. My favorite comment yesterday is from Emily Mountain 5442, who says, soon all we'll get is the intro of Michael dancing on a table and the rest will be censored. Yeah, I know. I understand my YouTube episodes have been heavily redacted and all the best content is being mercilessly ripped out of the show, which troubles me greatly. However, the reason for this is that big tech is clamping down, especially in the run-up to the election. So if you want the full show, you got to watch it on X. That'll go up there on the Michael Knowles Show account. You can watch it, obviously, on Daily Wire Plus. You can watch it on Spotify. But for now, the show on the biggest video platform in the world is going to be heavily redacted. All my really saucy stuff is probably going to be taken out. Speaking of segments that are almost certainly going to be cut out of the YouTube show, a man has himself because he got bored and tried a face swap app. This, thanks to our friend over at Libs of TikTok.
Hi everyone, good evening. It's your girl, Zena. So I wanted to do a video about my transition. It started back in October 2021 where I downloaded an app for fun. It's called Face App. And I did a gender swap. And all I did was change 2 settings, which was change gender and add makeup. And the results were absolutely amazing. And I didn't think much of it. I sent it to a few friends, and they said to me, oh my God, you should try it. You should transition. You should do it. And I went, oh yeah, okay, go away. And I just brushed it off. Fast forwarding a few months, I got bored on that Christmas break, so it was December 2021. And I thought, you know what, I'll give it a go.
There's another headline. This is a new study that came out. It shows lacking purpose in life could signal cognitive decline. And I'm no scientist, but something tells me that these 2 stories might be related. Something, I don't know. Yeah, I got a little bit bored. Crikey, that's not a knife. This is a knife. I can't really do a good Australian. Yeah, I got bored, and then I downloaded this app, and it said, look, turn yourself into a chick. So I clicked it, and it looked kind of funny. So anyway, now I'm transitioning. I'm possibly going to inject myself with all sorts of hormones and chop my body up. Lacking purpose could signal cognitive decline. Yeah, interesting. And this guy's saying where that came from was that he was just bored. And boredom is something we really have to guard against. Now, people can't sit still for 2 seconds. The minute you're waiting for someone at a restaurant, you're waiting for the bus or something, the minute you have I do it too. You have 2 seconds free. You're just down there on your phone. You're just refreshing Twitter or Instagram, or you're getting the news, or you're doing whatever. You have to be stimulated all the time. And when people don't have stimulation, they get kind of bored. And in this case, one suspects that these people are also looking at a lot of other things on the internet beyond Twitter. You get really bored, and then what? And the way to avoid the pitfalls of boredom is to have a purpose, to recognize that you have a purpose, whether you like it or not. There are things that you have to do. You have to fill your time, though, and you have to find ways to be motivated. And ultimately, the only way to do that is to have some sense of your nature, what you are for. And really what that means is believing in God. And so a secular society, an atheistic society, is just going to do a lot of this stuff. And a society that believes in the true God is not. And it's no coincidence that as our society becomes more secular, you're getting a lot more of this weirdness. And a lot of that weirdness comes from rudderlessness. It comes from lacking a sense of purpose. A lot of it, I suspect, comes from boredom, because idle hands are the devil's playground. Now, speaking of transitions, how's that for a transition? President Trump is bringing back his once fired campaign manager, Corey Lewandowski, for some sort of role on the campaign. Politico is reporting, as we head into the home stretch of this election, we're continuing to add to our impressive campaign team. Trump co-campaign managers Susie Wiles and Chris LaCivita said in a comment, Corey Lewandowski, Taylor Budowich, Alex Pfeiffer, Alex Bruesewitz, and Tim Murtaugh are all veterans of prior Trump campaigns, and their unmatched experience will help President Trump prosecute the case against Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, the most radical ticket in American history. I think this is great. I think this is a really good move. I don't know Corey Lewandowski. I don't know most of the people on this list. At least I don't know them very well. And, you could say, well, Lewandowski got fired the first time. Why would you bring him back? Well, look, Trump, especially when his campaigns were really cooking, he would churn through personnel, and then sometimes he'd bring them back. He's fired Steve Bannon. He's brought Steve Bannon back. He's fired Roger Stone. He's brought Roger Stone back. He's Trump. He says, "You're fired." That's his catchphrase. And so he's bringing Lewandowski back now. And I think it's a good thing, because having worked on a number of campaigns, especially in my youth, in my political experience, the original winning team possesses an expertise that people who come around later don't have. This is what happens, especially if you look at cheaper campaigns. I'm not talking about presidential campaigns, but but congressional campaigns, maybe even Senate campaigns, state Senate, that sort of thing. You run with a team, you win, then you say, okay, now I'm the real deal. Now the donations are really starting to pour in. Okay, now I got to upgrade my team. Now I'm going to get the fancy Washington people. And the fancy Washington people totally ruin it. They totally kill it. And I suspect the same thing happens even at the presidential level. The original team has its finger on the pulse of the base. They've just seen how to build a potent organization based on all those little building blocks, this constituency and this moment and this and this and this. That the fancy consultants who fly in on their private jets afterwards, they don't possess that expertise. So if a campaign is ever in trouble, and I suspect the Trump campaign feels that it is a little bit in trouble with the shakeup from Biden to Kamala, I think the first thing you got to do is go back to those original guys who have their finger on the pulse of the base. And so whether you like Corey Lewandowski, whether you hate Corey Lewandowski, whether you don't know anything about him at all, I just think his role in the Trump universe is the sort of thing that probably could be helpful right now. Now, speaking of big changes, there's a 61-year-old Englishman who is being jailed for asking one question. And that question is, who the F is Allah? This 61-year-old Englishman is being jailed for a year and a half because he was at an anti-migration protest in London. There's mass migration in London. London, you feel like you're on the streets of Karachi half the time. Okay, no offense to our friends from Karachi, but this is not your grandfather's London town. And this has created a number of social problems in the UK. And so there was a protest that says, hey, let's cut it out with the mass migration. In fact, one of the big drivers of Brexit was that they wanted to stop mass migration. Mass migration got worse after Brexit. So there's a protest, a totally justified protest from the perspective of the broad political issue. And this guy asked a question. He was filmed shouting, who the F is Allah? And he was not accused of engaging in any violent action, anything like that. He's going to go to jail for a year and a half. Now, first of all, that question, albeit said in a little bit of a saucy way, is a fair question if you're an Englishman, because Islam historically is a rather foreign religious concept. So I think it's a fair question. But no, you're not allowed to ask that. If you'd said, what the F is Christianity, if you'd mocked the saints, if you'd mocked our Lord even, well, if you'd mocked our Lord, you'd probably be asked to be the art director of the Olympics. But you don't mock Allah, you don't mock Islam. How did they get away with this in the UK? The UK does not have a First Amendment. We have a First Amendment. It gives us pretty serious free speech rights. They do have a limited free expression right under the 1998 Human Rights Act. But the UK enforces more speech standards. And okay, that's their culture. They could do that. That's fine. In fact, I think there's something to recommend that. The question is not, why doesn't the UK have free speech, which is how this is going to be framed. The question is, why can't you ask, what is Allah? What is Islam? Why can't you ask that? Why is Islam especially protected? And Christianity has pretty much no protections. And especially, why is that the case in the civilization formerly known as Christendom? That's the real question. The debate over why doesn't the UK have a First Amendment, that's a total distraction. Why does Islam gets special protections? Christianity gets no protections, not just in the UK, but throughout the West. Today's the day, folks. Pre-sale tickets are available right now at amiracist.com. Matt Walsh went undercover as a DEI expert. What he uncovered will shock you. Here is a sneak peek.
The white participants in the group feel that there's something in themselves that they have to overcome, when all that's being requested of you is that you be. Hello.
Hi.
How are you? How are
Sorry
you?
about that.
Oh, no problem. You good?
Yeah.
Yeah. Remind me of your name again.
Stephen.
Stephen? Yeah? Okay. Did you want to come up?
Come up?
Yeah. Do you want to come up and share anything?
Sure. What do you want me to share?
Whatever's on your mind.
I just want to know that, like, my physical safety and yours and everybody else's here is okay.
Why would your physical safety not be okay? Did I miss something?
I don't feel comfortable.
What? Can you guys catch me up to speed on what's going on here?
You don't need to be caught up. We're going to be silent.
Is it because I said I had 17 black friends? It might have been 15. It depends on how you count them.
I would really appreciate it if you left so that the people who actually want to be here and deserve to be here can get what they need.
I do want to be
Can
here.
you please leave?
I would like it if you left.
I'm trying to learn. I'm on this journey.
Come with me.
Well,
Thank you.
I didn't consent to be touched.
I'm not offering to touch you. I'm offering to walk you out. Will you walk with me and I'll answer your questions?
Okay, I'll admit it. My name's not Stephen. Maybe you already knew that. My name is Matt Walz.
We know.
I just was here on this journey that I'm just starting, but I see that I'm not wanted.
If you were on your journey, then you would have told us who you were, your real name, but you didn't.
Are you saying I
Please
needed a
leave.
better disguise? Is that what you?
I don't know, maybe, but you can figure that out as you walk out the door.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Thank you so much. I really had the transformative experience myself, and my pronouns are he, him.
I did everything I could to fit in. I opened up. I was raw and emotional. I told them about my black friends. It was no use. They rejected me, and they called the police. My mere presence in the room caused them pain. I'll never be accepted if I look like this. If they know that I'm Matt Walsh, I'll always be an outsider. I need to go deeper undercover, a whole new identity. If I want to be an ally, I need to look like one. Like someone who is progressive, tolerant, enlightened. Let me think. Have I ever met anyone like that? Ah, yes. Yes, I have.
What is a woman?
Why do you ask that question?
Am I Racist? Rated PG-13. Buy tickets now.
If you want to watch the movie, you got to get the tickets. Pre-sale tickets are out right now, and the more we sell, the more theaters will show the movie. So make sure to buy your pre-sale tickets today. Am I Racist hits theaters September 13th. Go to amiracist.com right now. Buy those tickets. Finally, we've arrived at my favorite time of the week when I get to hear from you in the mailbag. Our mailbag is sponsored by Pure Talk. Go to puretalk.com/Knowles today. Switch to a qualifying plan. Get 1 year free of DailyWire Plus Insider. Take it away.
Michael, my favorite Italian Catholic man in all of America. I hope that you're doing well this Friday. I have a question for you on the recent VP announcement of Tim Walz for the Harris Walz ticket. Obviously, there was some expectation that Shapiro would be the selection. He's from a swing state that's a must-win state. And then, it was announced that Walz would be the pick. He's obviously appeals to the more base wing of the Democrat Party. I think that there is an angle here that's not being talked about that I'm curious of what your opinion is. Do you think that there is a chance that the Dems presume Pennsylvania will be won by the same means it was won in 2020, namely ballot initiatives, however else you would fill in the blank? Thanks.
Cheating. You can say cheating. It's okay. I know we're all afraid of YouTube. Again, are we allowed to say that? But no, of course they cheated. They violated the state constitution in 2020 to rig the election by the widespread mail-ins. And this is a really good point. It hadn't occurred to me in precisely those terms. That's a really incisive point. I already reported on the show, and it's getting absolutely no play. It's being completely ignored by people who should be paying attention to it, and it's being suppressed by the establishment media, that Pennsylvania, we now know, is rigging the election because a couple listeners to this show wrote in because they received a mail-in ballot application with most of their information already filled out. So you get the application. That alone advantages the Democrats. But then if your information, things like your address, is filled out, then someone who wants to request a mail-in ballot, who maybe isn't that person, doesn't even need to do the guesswork. Not forget about it. He doesn't need to prove he is who he says he is. He doesn't even need to figure out all the personal information. It's already there. So that's just one little piece of evidence, but it's a piece of evidence that, yes, the Democrats are confident that they'll be able to rig the rules such that Pennsylvania won't really be in play. Plus, there's the Philadelphia Democrat machine, which is pretty good at churning votes. So it's a good point. Also, they couldn't pick Shapiro because the Dem base hates the Jews right now. But yeah, maybe Kamala thought, forget about it. Shapiro doesn't add that much, because we're going to figure out how to get Pennsylvania one way or the other. Let's focus in on other parts of the coalition that we need to shore up. Next question.
Hey, Michael, my question is about raising your kids to be Christian the other 6 days of the week. I grew up a Sunday Christian. I lived a very sinful adolescent life. But as a father of 2 children, I want to bring the teachings of Jesus home the other 6 days of the week. So what advice, tips do you have to offer? What do you plan on doing with your children? What are you doing now? I have a 3 and 2-year-old. So any advice is welcome. Thank you so much. Love what you do.
Thank you. Great question. You're so right. You got to do it pretty regularly. Basically all the time. You should be kind of praying all the time, actually, in one way or the other. And because we're incarnate creatures in time and space, you got to do it. You got to do it with your body, and you got to involve your whole family in. So how do you do it? Well, one thing I would recommend is, it's very simple, grace before meals. That's really easy. You can do that, and now you got your kids praying 3 times a day. And maybe you got them praying before snack too. So that's okay, 4 or 5 times a day. Very simple. Then you might add some icons to your home, some religious imagery, some statues, maybe I just got a little holy water font that I just put up on my wall. Just a nice little one. You bless yourself with a little holy water. That's nice. Little sacramentals are good. The rosary, if you have, depending on how old your kids are, maybe you do a family rosary. That's great. The home is supposed to be a domestic church. That's one way of understanding what the home is. So you already recognize that you've got to spread the religion out through time. It's not just a thing you do on Sunday, forget about the rest of the week, do it again next Sunday. You have to spread it out through time. Well, one way to help you do that is to spread it out through space. If your home is full of religious imagery, crucifixes, icons of different moments from the gospel, statues of saints, maybe Our Lady, maybe our Lord, all of a sudden, wow, you're kind of just moving in the faith all the time. Next question.
Hey Michael, it's EJ Colemill. Recently you said that the law was a teacher and that a majority of people are inclined to follow the law. Now, perhaps I misunderstand what you were trying to say, but it sounds as if you're saying that a change in the law leads to or precedes a change in the culture. I disagree. When looking through history, I failed to find a single incident where a change in the law preceded a change in the culture. The legal change always followed a cultural movement that was started years before on the ground level. For example, the counterculture movement that led to serious legal changes in the 60s and 70s started shortly after World War II ended in the 40s and 50s. Moreover, the cultural view of marriage changed long before marriage laws were changed and far before gay marriage was mandated by the Supreme Court. If the law were truly a teacher or had the power to change the culture independently, however, then I don't see how it would be possible to have changes to the law, cultural movements that cut against the law, or even the age-old practice of civil disobedience. Thanks.
Okay, good topics to bring up. Your chief objection is, and I think the strongest argument you're making is, Michael, if the law precedes changes in culture, then how could the law ever change? But you could make the same objection in the other direction. You'd say, hold on. If the culture precedes changes in the political order, then how does the culture ever change? And the real answer, which I think you're getting at, or at least you're half getting at, is and it's the point that I made on my show, is that the two are not so neatly separated. So you say there's no instance of a cultural change following a legal change. But that's not true. The example I used on the show last week is the destruction of the black family after the Great Society, which happens to be a point that conservatives have been prattling on about for decades. Lyndon Johnson institutes the Great Society. The black family collapses because, as Daniel Patrick Moynihan and so many other politicians and cultural observers have pointed out, the law created all sorts of incentives for the black family to split up and all sorts of disincentives to get married in the first place. So that would be one example of culture following a legal change. But there are many, many others. The number of babies aborted in America per year exploded after Roe v. Wade. After Roe v. Wade changed the law and said that abortion was to be permitted, we got many, many more abortions. Now, the point that you're making that is right is that there was a movement before Roe v. Wade to make abortion easier. That's true. Now, but that was a movement of a relatively small number of extremely dedicated left-wing activists. But that after they succeeded at changing the law, that's when you saw the big cultural shift. You even mentioned marriage. Now, first of all, gay marriage or whatever has been much more normalized and become much more prevalent after the Supreme Court changed the law. It was scarcely legally recognized before that. And when it came up for ballot initiatives, even in liberal California, it failed, like Prop 8. So the law changed people's perspectives on marriage. But even in as much as there was a movement before Obergefell changed the definition of marriage, don't forget, that wasn't the first big change to marriage. You might say that the mainstreaming of no-fault divorce would be the first major step in radically changing the definition of marriage, because marriage had been understood to be a union between a man and a woman for the purpose of generating and educating children and for the mutual support of the spouses, a union that was indissoluble for most of history. And then the liberalized divorce laws cut at the heart of that. And so then all of a sudden, if we could really radically redefine marriage, if marriage wasn't based on some objective moral standard, wasn't a far leap to change its meaning to say that sexual difference doesn't even matter. So there's obviously an interplay between culture and politics, which is not neatly separated. But there are many, many instances in history in which the law has shaped the culture by creating incentives and disincentives. And in fact, I think that aspect of culture making is far more pronounced than the libertarian, more politically demure version of saying that, you can't legislate morality or something like that. Next question.
Hi, Michael. I'm coming to you after listening to President Trump's remarks with the press at Mar-a-Lago on Thursday afternoon. And I've noticed in the weeks that have passed, Trump has given press conferences, and in both of them, the one with the black journalists, and this one, he mentioned that in comparison to the riots, the BLM riots and the Hamas riot in front of Union Station, nobody died on January 6th. And I know it's a minor point, but Ashley Babbitt died on January 6th. And I'm wondering, why is he stepping away entirely from that, where the truth is even worse? That not only did those police officers not die on that day, but the only person that died that day was a pro-Trump protester. Thank you.
Really good point, and I think you're totally right. And I don't think it's merely tangential to the story that Ashley Babbitt died. I don't think it's a minor point. I think it's a significant point. However, I suspect the reason why President Trump is portraying it in this way is because it's simpler to understand. Because if President Trump said, look, during the BLM riots, all these people died, and during the January 6th riot, only one person died, and she was actually on our side, and she was actually killed by a trigger-happy cop, I agree. It makes the narrative around January 6th, the Democrats' false narrative, seem even more outrageous. However, it's a subtler point. You have to say, then the left could say, yeah, there was political violence in both cases, but we really don't like the January 6th one because it was an attack on our sacred temple of democracy. And then you would say, no, but it was actually one of our guys who was killed. And it was actually this woman, and she was killed by a cop. And why was she killed by a cop? Because she went into this area she wasn't supposed to be, but they really shouldn't have shot her there because there wasn't really much of a threat. And, you have to explain yourself so much that, as Ronald Reagan said, when you're explaining, you're losing in a political campaign. And so I suspect Trump just thinks it's simpler to say, BLM, a lot of people died. January 6th, nobody died. which is true, and nobody died on the other side, like meaning that the pro-Trump people didn't kill anybody. But you're right, it's not technically true because one of the pro-Trump people died. The real story is even worse, but if it can't be communicated easily, politically, it's probably not worth it. The rest of the show continues now. You do not want to miss it. Become a member. Use code Knowles, KNWLES, at checkout for 2 months free on all annual plans.
Republicans are Nazis. You cannot separate yourselves from the bad white people.
Growing up, I never thought much about race. It never really seemed to matter that much, at least not to me. Am I racist?
I would really appreciate it if you left.
I'm trying to learn. I'm on this journey.
If I'm going to sort this out, I need to go deeper undercover.
They gon' say I'm racist.
Joining us now is Matt, certified DEI expert.
Here's my certification. And what you're doing is you're stretching out of your whiteness. This is more for you and less for you. Is America inherently racist?
The word inherent is challenging there.
I want to rename the George Washington Monument to the George Floyd Monument.
America is racist to its bones.
So inherently.
Yeah, this country is a piece of
white
folks,
white
Trash. White supremacy.
white woman,
White boy.
Is there a black person around? What's a black person right here? Does he not
They gon'
exist?
say I'm racist.
Hi, Robin.
Hi. What's your name?
I'm Matt.
Just had to ask who you are because you have to be careful.
Never be too careful.
They gon' say you racist.
Buy your tickets now. In theaters September 13th. Rated PG-13.